If you read the title and were like, Amanda, I'm so employed, I don't even know who KATSEYE is. Yes, you do, babe, unless you don't have TikTok, in which case maybe. But if you do use TikTok, at least semi-frequently, you've probably heard a KATSEYE song without knowing it, or seen some of the members, or seen one of the viral dances. But before I tell you who KATSEYE is, we need to talk about K-pop. You're all so disclaimer, I'm a noob when it comes to K-pop. I mean, that should be evident by the fact that the first song that triggered in my mind was from the movie K-pop Demon Hunters and not from, like, I don't know, BTS or something. So K-pop, the K standing for Korean, has gotten more mainstream in the US over the last like 10 years or so, I'd say. Even if you know nothing about K-pop, you've probably heard of the bands BTS or Blackpink. They're like the biggest guy and the biggest girl group. I did some research, and apparently when we Westerners think of K-pop, we're actually referring specifically to like the idol system and idol music, which actually originated in Japan and not Korea. So generally speaking, the idol system is where a company takes on young trainees after an audition process. So these trainees, they train and sharpen their skills during a certain period of time. Like they're given, I don't know, maybe a few months to a few years to do this. It kind of depends on what the time frame is. And then they make their debut as a polished, marketable unit. I've read that there's a certain stigma around idols that may be evolving now that K-pop is evolving, but some people don't see idols as artists. They see more so as like a vessel for music, meaning that the music comes second compared to the entertainment factor and visuals and the song presentation, because that's kind of what separates K-pop and like the idols from, you know, traditional artists, I guess. Like with K-pop, the showmanship goes crazy. They've really mastered the art of the spectacle. There's a huge focus on details, facial expressions, synchronized choreography, fashion. Like those are all really important characteristics of a K-pop performance, or I guess an idol performance. And these idols have been manufactured by a company. The specific members of the group, or like the specific idol, they tend to not have a lot of creative freedom. I mean, I'm sure it kind of like varies on a case-by-case basis, but generally like the artists are not the one making all of the creative decisions here. You know, it's the company, it's whoever's like managing them. As such, what's prioritized when it comes to idols from the company's perspective is curating a dedicated fan base by utilizing parasocial relationships. Now, that's not really an entirely new concept, and it's something that so many different people have been doing, especially nowadays, because they've realized the importance of that. And like I said, these idols can either be solo artists or a group, but when it comes to a group, this is how the casting kind of works in general. Ultimately, after the training period, all of the members need to have a baseline level of skills. All of them need to be good singers, good dancers, and good performers, right? And usually the baseline minimum required standard is actually pretty high. It's super competitive, and I feel like the bar just keeps on rising. They also usually all fit the beauty standard, which is also, you know, a pretty high bar. And, you know, when it comes to entertainment, it's pretty well known that pretty privilege is a plus and helps people succeed. However, with idols, being extremely beautiful is a must. No uggos up in here. And I will say that that particular part of, I guess, idol culture, I've seen it be super toxic. I mean, it's wreaked total havoc on people. I don't even want to get into what it's done for body image. I mean, the fat shaming goes crazy. And so, yeah, there's that whole side of that industry. And also, as part of the screening process, everybody has to have a clean record and a good personality so that they're palatable to an audience. However, what differs is that each person in the group has a specific role to play. So, like, I just basically talked about all the things that they needed to have in common. But in terms of the differences, usually there's a main vocal, aka the one of the group who is an extremely talented and technically advanced singer. Same goes for dancing. There's a main dancer, and then the lead vocals and singers are the ones that are like second best and support and back up the main. Certain groups also have a rapper as well. And then finally, there's the visual, or like there's usually the visual, aka the one with the most lethal face card. And sometimes, and usually, I feel like they become the face of the group. And there are certain companies that are the biggest and most reputable in terms of creating idols, meaning it is super competitive to become a trainee for these companies specifically. I mean, super competitive in general, but like with these companies, they're kind of like, I guess, the Ivy Leagues, because your success rate after debuting is super high because you're backed by an already established company. Also, not every trainee becomes an idol, so becoming an idol, especially for one of the major companies, like you could probably tell, it's super, super tricky. And it's interesting to compare this landscape to Western music. For whatever reason, in the US, even though we have record labels and companies and marketing teams who carefully craft and curate the image of artists all the time, like, I guess kind of without us knowing, like they keep it more subtle. I guess we just love the illusion of authenticity and someone building their own empire from the ground up. And so I was thinking about how in the US, instead of the trainee system, I don't really think the trainee system is popular at all or even really exists here yet. Instead, we see the childhood star to pop star pipeline pretty frequently. We also have had people get their big break from competition shows like X Factor and The Voice. So anyways, I just wanted to make sure you have that knowledge in the back of your pocket. I found learning about all of this stuff both incredibly fascinating and simultaneously horrifying. The horror comes from the fact that the entertainment industry as a whole profits off of grooming children, and this is something that I knew already. Like I just mentioned, in the US, we usually induct future pop stars into the industry when they're really young via acting, and with the idol system, these trainees are teens, like maybe 11, 12, 13, super, super young, right? Recently, there was a lawsuit against JYP Entertainment, who most notably created the groups Twice and Stray Kids, by a former member of one of their other groups. I was gonna pronounce it VCHA, but I heard someone else pronounce it Vicha, so I guess I'll just go with Vicha. And she's known by her stage name KG Crown. And I don't really know about any of this stuff. I only stumbled across it when I was like specifically looking up different K-pop related things. And so KG is suing JYP Entertainment, and she is alleging that there were child labor law violations, abuse, and exploitation. Now, this is extremely disturbing, but unfortunately not surprising, because idol training and being an idol is notorious for its difficulty. The trainees have to usually undergo really horrible conditions and super long hours, no breaks. There is obvious mental and physical and emotional strain as a result of this sort of schedule. There's controlling company tactics, and mind you, the trainees are children, right? An 18-year-old is considered fucking ancient in the trainee idol world. They have one foot in the grave, about to be put out to pasture. You know what I'm saying? So we're talking about really young kids who are going through this shit. Even if we were talking about adults here, that's still not good. But it's extra doubly, triply, gazillion times worse when we're talking about children here, right? So I think it's important to acknowledge that the system is low-key built on a cycle of child abuse, so there's that to keep in mind. So be careful about getting too sucked into this madness. And now we get to the main topic, the main course. Let me introduce you to a little something called Dream Academy. But before I explain to you what that is, let me ask you this. Ever wanted to turn your mobile gaming into real money? Well, there's actually a way to do exactly this with my sponsor, FreeCash. FreeCash is a free online platform where users can earn money by playing mobile games, completing surveys, and more. This might sound too good to be true, but guys, it's the real deal. FreeCash has a 4.8 star rating on Trustpilot. So let me show you how it works. Once you log in, you'll see several offers. These are games you can play or surveys you can take, and meeting certain progress goals through them earns you real money. Here, I chose to play this really fun color sorting game. Once I've played enough, I will have collected some real coin, you guys. And not video game coins, I'm talking real money. Here we can see I won a little over $66, and I have all sorts of ways to withdraw the money, from PayPal to bank withdrawal to crypto. Here, I chose PayPal. With FreeCash, you can really turn a relaxing hobby into a real side hustle. Now that's pretty sweet. Sign up now using my QR code and get a $5 sign up bonus for starting your first offer. Thank you so much to FreeCash for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to it. So you may be thinking, Amanda, what on earth is Dream Academy? Well, Dream Academy was a project in order to form the next global girl group, aka KATSEYE. The collaborators of this project are Geffen, an American record label, and HYBE, the company who created BTS. So you got these really two big powerhouses curating and crafting this global girl group, okay? KATSEYE was being marketed as the first global girl group to be formed using K-pop artist methodologies, aka the idol system that I just described to you earlier, which I don't think is technically true. I mean, haven't there been other girl groups formed this way? VCHA, for example. But anyways, this is HYBE's way of truly infiltrating the Western market. I mean, they already kind of did so with BTS and whatnot. Essentially, they're taking the K out of K-pop, but keeping everything else about K-pop, the culture, the idol system, all of that the same. Over 120,000 auditions were sifted through, and out of these, a mere 20 were selected to participate in the Dream Academy. They would train their butts off every damn day, and then 6 of these 20 girls would be selected as the official members of KATSEYE and make their global debut. So, Dream Academy happened. The 6 girls were selected. KATSEYE was formed, 2 singles were released, and then the Netflix documentary of the Dream Academy experience was released, and this was called Popstar Academy. So you may get those two confused, but Dream Academy is like the actual academy that the girls went through, and then Popstar Academy is the name of the Netflix documentary about Dream Academy, okay? The release of the Netflix documentary is when things really got kicked off for KATSEYE. And so what I want to do now is to go back and talk about Dream Academy in more detail, and what I'm telling you is how the documentary presented the following events. I mean, that's really the main insight that I have to go off of. I wasn't there pre-documentary. I know that they aired some of this stuff live on YouTube and Weverse and other platforms, but I don't have that insight. I wasn't there live. If you were, let me know what the vibes were, because I'm kind of really curious. So the way that this all started and went down is that HYBE and Geffen announced that they were holding global auditions for a girl group. Now, if I was skinnier and slightly shorter and had dancing experience and or singing experience and or a super lethal face card, if you're also currently between the ages of like 18 and 22, hey, we could have been members. So there were, like I said, thousands, hundreds of thousands of auditions. Some sent in clips of them singing or dancing, some auditioned in person, and some were even scouted via social media. Out of all of these people, you know, all of the auditions, all of the scouting, only 14 were brought to LA to be in the first round of Dream Academy hopefuls. So this stage that we're in is preparation for Dream Academy. Dream Academy has not started yet. The class size that they want for the Academy is 20. So right now we're in the process of selecting these 20 individuals that will make up that class. And this process is called the Training and Development Program, which will take a year, which sounds like a long time, but it's actually kind of short in terms of trainee standards. But this program has these girls working all day, every day. They're getting dance lessons, vocal lessons, performance lessons. There's an evaluation at the end of each month where the execs judge and rank the girls based on dancing ability, vocal ability, visual performance, star quality, and attitude. So they're going through all this training and development, like I said, for a whole year before they even get to enter Dream Academy, mind you. And these ranks aren't secret, I'm pretty sure. So the girls know where they stand at any given moment. And especially like even if the exact 1 to 14 rankings aren't available for them to see, I think even without that, you pretty much know where you stand, because there are different levels within the vocal and dance and other lessons. You can see who's on your level, who's ahead of you, who's behind you. And on top of that, when you're getting the monthly evaluations, and when you're in these lessons with other people, the feedback that you're getting from the instructors and from the execs is in front of everybody. So I feel like you have a pretty good idea of where you stand at any given moment, which is probably both helpful and both incredibly vulnerable and emotionally and mentally hard to handle. From what I could gather, it seems pretty brutal. And so I mentioned people called the execs, short for executives, and I call them that even though maybe not everybody falls in this category, but it's just a general term that I'm going to be using for simplicity's sake, for the people in charge, who aren't, you know, the girls, the trainees. Here are some notable execs featured in the doc. We've got Bang, the chairman of HYBE, Michelle, the casting director, Missy, the program director, Nikki, a dance instructor who's also Missy's sister, Sun, the executive creator who was the performance director and choreographer for BTS, and Mitra, the president of HYBE Geffen, I think. Like, I don't know if she's the president of one of them or both of them or this collaboration. It was a little bit unclear to me. Also, the announcement of Dream Academy is when this whole thing goes public. So until then, it's kind of a super secret project. I mean, at this point, auditions were public. I mean, obviously that's how some of the girls got there, but the training and development program is super, super secret. So it's June of 2022. I mentioned that they only brought 14 girls in at first for the training and development program, but here's the thing. It gets a little complicated because there are 3 girls, Mia, Angelina, and Narjessi, that were supposedly in the first round of girls that came, but they got literally 0 screen time and 0 mention in the documentary. So just know that these girls participated in the early round of the program. I wanted to give them a little shout out. Hey, that leaves us with 13 girls that are pretty well featured in the documentary. We've got Abby, Adela, Brooklyn, Daniela, aka Danny, Emily, Ezrella, Ilya, Carly, Lexie, Marquis, Megan, Naisha, and Sophia. Out of these 13, 2 ended up being eliminated within a couple months. The first is Abby, and she was this really cute girl who really wanted this and was willing to work hard for it, but apparently her skill set was so low that the execs didn't even see a point in keeping her around because she wouldn't be able to achieve the standard that they needed within a year. The second girl that was eliminated was Naisha. She's a great dancer. She has this charisma and swagger that the casting really loved at first, but as time went on, they thought that she had too much flair and was lacking technique, and they were kind of ragging on her a little bit in terms of, you know, her dancing. And then the final straw was when there was this mini scandal within the program. Because of the secrecy of the project, like I mentioned, there were NDAs and strict rules about no posting on social media. And the girls in the training program had private accounts and close friend stories so that they could still post, but only for each other. And so they figured, since it was isolated and only the girls in the program can see, like, it's probably fine if they posted it for each other, but no, that was still a breach of contract. And even though in the documentary it seemed like everybody was doing it, only Naisha was let go because she was the only one apparently who posted an original song of HYBE and Geffen, like of the training program, and it was apparently visible to girls who weren't in the program, even though Naisha said that that wasn't the case. So yeah, that was an unfortunate situation. And so now we have 11 girls to focus on, aka the 13 that I named to you minus the 2 that were eliminated. So let me describe to you what the general vibes of these girls are. So the top dancers of the program and the top performers in general are as follows: Megan, Emily, Danny, and Adela. These girls are at the top throughout the entire training and development program. Like, they're the leaders, they're the top of the pack. Adela is the mom of the group. She's an extremely hard worker and a natural leader. Emily is portrayed in the documentary as the undisputed top dancer. Like, she goes crazy. Danny is also an extremely strong dancer. She has a lot of dancing background like Emily. She slays. And then Megan is a little bit more of an all-arounder. She's always at the top of the pack when it comes to singing, dancing, and performance. And then we get to the top vocalists of the training and development program, which are Ilya, Sophia, and Carly in that order. But Carly, I think, is the better dancer of the 3, so that's how they balance that out a little bit there. They say that the girls that are at the top in terms of star quality are Lexie and Marquis. So when the execs talk about star quality, I feel like they're mostly referring to attractiveness and charisma, but mainly attractiveness. Like, I don't know. I wonder if I was working in this field and if I was working in casting, if I would be able to describe star quality as something different than attractiveness. But to me, it seems like when they talk about star quality and they're always like, oh my god, this person has so much star quality, it's literally someone who's just like really attractive. But maybe it's more than that. I don't know. Marquis obviously has a very lethal face card, so does Lexie. But as the program progresses, Lexie also starts to become pretty good at singing and dancing, and like the execs take note of her progression and of her rising skill level, so that makes her even more of an asset. The underdogs of this group are Brooklyn and Ezrella. They're all around at the bottom of the pack. In terms of friendships, the cliques that are shown most heavily are Megan, Emily, and Adela. We have that little trio of besties. And then, of course, we have Lexie and Ezrella, who are definitely very close besties. So this is the vibe of the training and development program for, I think, maybe a couple of months. But then things get shaken up because this girl named Manon gets scouted. So casting, Michelle, found her through social media and then DM'd her on Instagram asking her if she'd be interested in participating in this program. Obviously, Phase Guard goes crazy, incredibly lethal. Mind you, Manon had zero singing or dancing experience, and despite that, a training and development staff member was sent to Switzerland, where Manon was living, to personally train her because they thought that she had really high star quality and potential. Now, this happened pretty much immediately after Abby was eliminated, at least in the documentary, which served as a really interesting contrast because, like, mind you, Abby was let go because she had too low of a skill set, and now you're bringing in a person with virtually zero, like she's at probably even worse than Abby, and they're deciding to invest more resources in her because they see her potential or they see her star quality. So you can already tell not all of the girls are created equal, and I mean, that's just it. It is what it is. You know, they're looking for a specific person. They're looking for a person with specific qualities. And if you happen to be exactly what they're looking for, obviously they're going to invest a lot in you to ensure your success. So Manon joins the group and is consistently in the bottom 3 after evaluations, which is only to be expected. I mean, she had no experience. Emily and Lexie end up getting injuries and can't participate for several weeks, which was unfortunate for them. And now we're at 12 girls total with the addition of Manon. And then they increase it by 1 to 13 because they bring in Celeste, who was not given that big of an introduction. Like, I was rewatching the documentary. I've seen it twice at this point. And Loki, like, I don't know, I feel like they barely even introduced her. But then they have this whole big introduction, this whole big build-up, saying that they're still looking for some key players. They need a vocalist who could sell out stadiums. Boom. Lara Raj. Chills, iconic. She had such a cool introduction. Lara was scouted through social media like Manon, and so now with the addition of Lara and Celeste, we're at 14 girls total. Then they seemingly added, at least according to the documentary, the last 6 girls all at once, and these girls were Nayoung, Samara, Yunche, Mei, Hinari, and Ua. And so now with 20 girls, I think Bang was like, okay, let's start Dream Academy. Let's go public with this. So all of these 20 girls that I've mentioned are the official class of Dream Academy. And they did a final evaluation / ranking of all of the girls before Dream Academy officially started. Megan, Daniela, Emily, Adela, Sophia, Ezrella, Carly, Marquis, Lara, Yunche, Nayoung, Samara, Lexie, Ua, Mei, Ilya, Brooklyn, Celeste, Hinari, Manon. Now, everyone is more or less where they kind of were, and like everybody's been pretty stable, at least if they're towards the top of the pack, towards the middle, towards the bottom. The biggest movers seem to be Ezrella, 6th. Like, she was at the very bottom, at least when she entered the training and development program, so that's such a slay for her. She's shown huge improvement and growth over the course of this program, and Ilya now is way towards the bottom. Even though she's a good singer, she wasn't great at blending into the group vocally, and she's kind of stagnant with everything else, with dancing and all of that. Even though, you know, everybody is working really hard, obviously, except for maybe certain people at first. We'll get into that later. So now it's time to go public. The girls are given a makeover. Some get totally new looks. And this isn't them choosing to get a new look. This is other people choosing the look for them, okay? So that's something to keep in mind. They made Carly blonde, made Celeste pink, made Marquis red, and forced Danny to go back to her dark brown roots. The fandom universally agrees that this was the move for Danny. She slays as a brunette even though she was opposed to it at first. Like, my girl was holding on to her bleached blonde hair for dear fucking life. So, with their new looks completed, the class of Dream Academy was introduced to the world. And so, the whole time that I've been explaining this to you, you may be like, Amanda, well, what the fuck exactly is Dream Academy? How is it different from the training development program? Well, let me tell you, Dream Academy is a 12-week competitive survival show with fan voting and eliminations. The girls did not know this when they signed up for the training and development program. Is that not crazy? They were completely blindsided about the nature of this program, and hence their agreement and commitment was based on deception. Like, they just thought that they were going to go through training and development program, and then the execs would pick the 6 girls that they would want to move on and debut this new girl group. They had no idea that they were going to be thrown into a fucking survival competition show with fan voting and all this shit. Like, oh my goodness gracious. Over these 12 weeks, there will be 3 different missions judged by a combination of fan voting and executive input. The 10 finalists who survive the missions will compete in a live finale where the final 6 members will be chosen and announced and become KATSEYE. These poor girls have been in the trenches of training. Some of them have been doing it for a year now, possibly more, and now they're being thrown into this freaking competition against their will. So I'm going to describe how Dream Academy went down, but I'm going to save giving my thoughts and analysis until later, okay? Bear with me. So mission 1, there was a total of 4 groups. 2 of the groups would be doing only a vocal performance, and 2 of the groups will be doing only a dance performance. The top 6 individuals with the most fan votes after, they see both of these performances get immunity, and 2 girls will be eliminated before mission 2. Dance team A was Megan, Danny, Adela, Ua, and Hanari. Dance team B was Marquis, Emily, Yunche, Ezrella, and May. Vocal team A was Nayoung, Sophia, Laura, Celeste, and Samara. Vocal team B was Manon, Ilya, Brooklyn, Carly, and Lexie. The top 6 that ended up getting immunity in this order, based on fan voting, were Nayoung, Sophia, Samara, Manon, Lara, and Yuche. When it came to reveal who would be eliminated, the execs said that they wanted to keep it as neutral, but simultaneously as dramatic as possible, so they had this weird disembodied AI voice who would mercilessly shatter these girls' dreams on a live stream in front of thousands of people. And people were not happy about that decision. The first person eliminated was Hanari. This wasn't surprising because she was the youngest contestant at 14 years old, and as such, she wasn't as skilled as the other members, potentially didn't have as much experience, so she really struggled with this mission and with learning the dance and with keeping up with the rest of her group. The second person eliminated was Adela. This shocked the girls to their core because Adela was in the untouchable top 4 for the entire training and development program, mind you. But after this mission, she was dead last in terms of fan voting. I'm not really sure why this was the case. There were a couple of speculations about her not fitting into the beauty standard, or potentially she came from a really small country, so nationality-wise, in terms of the voting, your nationality did affect how the voting turned out, because, for example, let's say if you came from a particular country and the people from that country felt very loyal to you and took you in, you would get all of their support, but potentially she wasn't receiving that same support. And with the whole beauty standard thing, she's gorgeous, so I don't really know what people were speculating about with that. But even though this elimination was shocking, and I'm sure it was probably even shocking to her too, she took it in stride, and she's on to bigger and better things now. Mission 2 was in Korea, and again, there were 4 groups, but this time the competing teams would get the same song and choreography. A set of teams performed to the song Anti-Fragile, and the other set performed to Fearless. The best group out of each song, as determined by fan voting, would get immunity, and 4 girls would be eliminated total. Anti-Fragile Team 1 was Emily, Lara, Sophia, and Yunche. Anti-Fragile Team 2 was Carly, Ilya, Megan, and Samara. Fearless Team 1 was Brooklyn, Lexie, Marquis, May, and Nayoung. Fearless Group 2 was Celeste, Daniela, Ezrella, Manon, and Ua. Anti-Fragile Group 1 won the fan voting and gained immunity, while Fearless Group 2 won and gained immunity. That means that Carly, Ilya, Megan, Samara, Brooklyn, Lexie, Marquis, May, and Nayoung were all vulnerable. And the results ended up being that Brooklyn, Carly, Ilya, and May were eliminated. Unlike last time with Adela, these eliminations seemed pretty reasonable, but there was a little mini scandal that happened during this elimination that I'm gonna hold off on explaining, but it resulted in Lexie deciding to leave the program. Low-key 5 people ended up being eliminated after mission 2 instead of 4, because now Lexie is gone. Now we get to mission 3, and the girls are tired and over it by this point. In mission 3, there were 3 groups of non-K-pop performances, and it was individual fan voting instead of like voting for one whole group like last time, and the top 2 most popular fan voted girls would go to the finale automatically, and 3 girls in total would be eliminated by the execs. The group performing to the song Confident was Lara, Megan, Marquis, and Yoonchae. The group performing to the song Buttons was Celeste, Daniela, Manon, Nayoung, and Sophia. The group performing to the song Wannabe was Emily, Ezrella, Ua, and Samara. The 3 girls that were eliminated after this mission were Celeste, Ua, and surprisingly Nayoung, just because, like, as you know, she was number 1 fan voting initially, and she's like always been near the top in that respect, and she's a great singer. But I'll get into the details about why in a second. Sorry, I know that's annoying, but I just want to get to the end of this before, we did the whole analysis thing, right? The top 10 girls that made it to the live finale were Sophia, Lara, Ezrella, Danny, Emily, Samara, Manon, Marquis, Megan, and Yoonchae. During the finale, there were 3 performances, 2 with 5 girls each, and then 1 with all 10. There was fan voting during the finale, and then, like I said, there was also judge voting, and so the result of the judge votes was Megan got 2 votes, Sophia got 2 votes, Lara got 1, and Danny got 1. So those were all the exec input, and then this was the fan voting rankings, so keep that in mind. Then it was time to announce the group. Introducing KATSEYE! Who do you think it's gonna be if you don't already know who it is? Make your guesses now! The members of KATSEYE are Megan, Sophia, Lara, Danny, Yoonchae, and Manon. As such, Samara, Ezrella, Marquis, and Emily were eliminated. It was very sad to see. Now, time for analysis and debriefing because I have a lot to say. From a casting perspective, watching the show was incredibly fascinating. So right off the bat, you're looking for pretty skinny girls, not too tall, not too short, that you can mold into superstars. But there are gives and takes. They can be on the less pretty side as long as they compensate with a lot of talent, or conversely, they can be on the less talented side if they compensate with looks. That's the impression that I got. Now, there is a divide, and this divide was a point of contention in the documentary, it seemed to me, between those that auditioned and those that were scouted. Now, I don't think we know everyone's exact logistics in terms of whether they were scouted or whether they auditioned. I mean, in the documentary, they pointed out which of the girls were scouted, but that doesn't mean that those were all the girls that were scouted, you know what I mean? But, like, take Abby, for example. She auditioned, but she was deemed to have too low a skill set and was sent home. However, then they scouted Manon, someone who had no experience singing or dancing whatsoever, to my knowledge, but was given a one-on-one trainer to compensate. I guess it's the law of supply and demand. Manon's face card, visual appeal, and charisma are huge assets that can't really be trained. Therefore, she's valuable to them. Similarly, Lara has a very particular vibe and aesthetic, which is a perpetual state of serving cunt. Not only does she slay and has a lethal face card, but she has an incredible voice. That combination is also something that can't really be trained given their time frame. And the fact that both Lara and Manon were scouted was, to me, an unspoken indicator that their chances of making it into KATSEYE were extremely high. Not necessarily guaranteed, but extremely high. The company already sees value in them and was providing resources to ensure their success and to make their investments worth their while, whereas the girls who auditioned had to prove their worth and were more replaceable / exchangeable, it seemed to me. The fact that the girls weren't treated equally was unfair and probably resulted in some hurt feelings, but what really caused the tension was Manon's behavior. There seems to be some misinformation on this topic, and I wrote down what was said in the documentary about this subject and who said it and the order in which it was said. And listen, to be clear, I do not dislike Manon. She's my girl, love her, I don't think she deserves any hate at all, and I know there are a lot of Manon defenders. However, on this particular issue, I have my thoughts and I have my feelings. Please don't hate me. Manon defenders, I am, please. Like, I just want to have a genuine discussion here and see everybody's thoughts and feels. All right? All right. The subject was introduced that Manon doesn't live at the house with the other girls because there was, that was the living situation, by the way. There was this big house that most of the girls shared. And it was said that the reason that she doesn't live at the house with the other girls was because there was a couple of rules with her that continued to be broken, like being late to curfew or being late to class or skipping rehearsals. And Manon ended up revealing that she missed a lot of training either because she was sick. I mean, we knew in the documentary that at one point she was sick with COVID, or she decided to take days off because she was really sore. Or she also mentioned that she was insecure about not being able to catch up with the other girls, and that was potentially an underlying personal issue that she was having and she was working through. She also said that she initially looked at this program like school, where taking a day off is okay. Now, all of that is completely understandable, and I don't think it's wrong for a person to take off of training because they're injured or they're sick or whatever the case may be. However, like, it does seem with Manon like a line was crossed to the point where it seemed like she was blatantly potentially taking advantage of the privilege and the leniency that she was being given. The reason that I say all this also is because the training and development program manager, her name was Missy, and Missy said, and I quote, "When we first met Manon, there was obvious star quality there. Sometimes people of star quality have this arrogance or whatever it is about them, but with K-pop, there's also this required humbleness and kindness and caring about others and your teammates. I have not seen that from Manon. I would absolutely not put her in this group based on my work experience with her." Then we have a quote from Megan. "This keeps happening over and over again with Manon, and there's people that just came and never danced before just like her, but they're here every single rehearsal putting in the work." Then we have a quote from Laura, who was referencing the results of the fan voting. "And then to see people who don't show up be at the top, it's just stupid." And then we have a quote from Adela. "And even people like Manon, she's getting so much attention. People are upset because she doesn't put a lot of effort and she doesn't show up for her teams a lot. So people are upset that she is the person who's getting so much attention. It's just because she's pretty." Then we have a quote from Sophia. "Manon clearly knows about it because she's literally spoken to me saying that she's upset that we're saying things and all of that about her, but why are you upset that we're frustrated at you when it's your doing and we've told you that we're upset? And this has been going on since the month that she came here." When Manon came back to rehearsal, Manon said, "Sophia just gave me the dirtiest look on planet Earth." Then we have a quote from Ezrella. "A lot of us still haven't built that trust in Manon because she never came to rehearsals. Sometimes it just feels like a slap in the face to those of us who've been here from the start." Then finally, we have a conversation between Adela and Naisha. Adela said, "There are people that are so clearly passionate about this, but then there are people like Manon who doesn't show up to rehearsals." Naisha responds, "Even when I was there, she wasn't showing up." And Adela says, "No, she never does. She breaks the rules and doesn't get penalized for it. Now it's being completely ignored." During Dream Academy, between missions 2 and 3, Manon asked to sit down with all the girls and started by saying that she's frustrated because other girls have been missing rehearsal too, but she's the only one that the girls seem to pick on. And it was never mentioned who the other girls Manon was referring to were, but we know that Lexie and Emily had injuries, and we also know that Lexie skipped rehearsals towards the end of her time there. So I don't know, it could have been either of those girls, but again, we just really don't know. And then Sophia explains why the group is frustrated with Manon specifically, and then Manon finishes by saying that she wants to be held accountable and do better moving forward. And then it seems like from that point on, the beef was squashed, and Manon was a fan favorite before the Netflix documentary dropped, and she continues to be a favorite as a current member of KATSEYE, and she has tons of supporters and fans who rush to her defense when she's faced with even the slightest bit of negativity, which, I mean, that's just normal fan behavior by this point. So here's my main problem with this whole situation. In terms of the internet's reaction to this, from what I've seen, Adela has been disproportionately hated on for her take on the Manon situation, which I personally cannot understand at all, and it makes me really angry. Just because Adela's TikTok that she posted recently, and I still saw shit in the comment section. Like, what? That's crazy. So The people that I've seen coming to Manon's defense and or hating on Adela say, like, God forbid Manon misses a class because she's sick, or God forbid she needs a break, like, it's important to take care of yourself. Manon's not used to this sort of training, whereas the other girls are, and Adela's just jealous that Manon's pretty. I fear that y'all are missing the point entirely. We can all agree, yes, if you're sick, you should miss class. If you're injured, you should miss class. There are other girls who also weren't used to this sort of training, who were also putting in the effort and showing up every single day. With Manon, based on not just the quote from Adela, quotes from several of the girls, including the program manager herself, it wasn't just missing class one time. It wasn't just missing class a couple times. It was clearly a pattern of behavior that consistently hurt her teammates, and this went on for months, right? She waited all the way until she was 2/3 of the way through Dream Academy, not even the training and development program. It was the entirety of her time in the training and development program, and most of the time during Dream Academy before she decided to sit down with the girls and have this chat, right? And it's like only then when you're in the final stretch and your odds of making it are the highest they've ever been, where you're like, okay, now I'm ready to make a change. It was also universally agreed upon among the girls in the program that Manon's behavior was unacceptable. It was not just Adela, okay? My point being, it was not just Adela, but for some reason Adela's the only one that's getting hate for it. And it was to the point where even the program manager said that she has not seen the required humbleness, kindness, and caring about others required to be a part of this group from Manon, that she would absolutely not recommend her to join KATSEYE, period, based on her experience working with her. That's an extremely loaded statement and something you can't just write off. However, again, like I said, it's water under the bridge by this point, but if you are still hating on Adela to this day, you're dumb. With peace and love, please get a grip. And also, it wasn't just that Manon was slacking off, it was that the execs didn't reprimand her through elimination, even though she continuously broke the rules, because the execs wanted her in that group, which makes it feel like Manon can continue to push the limits of what's acceptable because she's extremely valuable to them. It's kind of like, I don't know if you've seen the anime, the basketball one, Kuroko's Basketball, where that guy who's like the best player on the team doesn't show up to any of the practices, but he can come to the games and play in the games, because if he didn't come to the games, then their team wouldn't win. And so they have an agreement that he can do whatever he wants as long as he shows up to the games and wins. It's kind of like that. I mean, if you're the MVP, which I guess in the execs' minds, Manon was one of the MVPs, then what are they to do if she just decides to not cooperate? You know what I mean? Because she doesn't have something that can be easily replaced. And so, my point being, if the girls were salty and found that unfair and were expressing their concerns about this, again, it wasn't just Adela, there were other girls, there was Ezrella, there was Lara, there was Megan. Well, yes, they have every right to feel that way, because it was an unfair situation, and it wasn't just that Manon was getting these special privileges by not being reprimanded for breaking the rules. She was also hurting her teammates in the process of not being there, because with dance, you know, when someone isn't there, like, you have to reblock things. It's really difficult. Okay, enough of that. Obviously, I feel like people are going to be mad at me for saying that, but it is what it is. That's how I feel. Dream Academy was a completely different beast between the training and development program, because during training and development, the rankings were based on skill. There was the top of the pyramid and there was the bottom. And even though a couple people jumped up and down, like Israel and Ilya, you know, everyone more or less stayed right around where they were, and they knew where they stood in comparison. The execs had their favorites. The execs knew who performed really well consistently and who didn't. But fan voting turned that hierarchy upside down. Once Dream Academy went public and fans got to pick their favorites, there were some clear fan favorites. Manon, Lara, like I mentioned, were both exec favorites, both scouted by social media, and they both had a pre-established following. And both tested really well with audiences. The other big figure that emerged was Sophia. Sophia experienced a huge wave of love and support from the Philippines, her home country. And Sophia, by that point, she already had a lot of things going for her. She's pretty, a beautiful singer, a natural leader, an extremely hard worker. And now the fact that she is starting to have a dedicated fan base catapults her to the top, right? The role of fan voting in this was kind of inspired by the Olympics, and some countries were way more loyal than others. The people that suffered the most were actually, a bunch of those were from the US, and I guess with other places there was maybe a sense of loyalty and representation, but I guess with the US viewers they were like, every bitch for themselves, which makes sense, I guess. And in terms of getting into the mind of the producers, it was interesting to see what they chose and who they chose for the missions. To start out with the dancers versus the singers, it seemed to me like they were trying to set the stage immediately about what people's strengths were. And in terms of crafting the group, like I explained earlier in the video, they're looking for a main vocalist and dancer, so it's important to see who tests well in fans in terms of out of the best dancers and out of the best singers. Nayoung was number 1 in fan votes due to her singing abilities, and that definitely put her on people's radar. And in addition to the people I mentioned already being Lara, Manon, and Sophia, the other 2 that made up the top 6 in terms of fan voting were Samara and Yoonchae. And the top 4 throughout the training development program, Megan, Danny, Emily, and Adela, were kind of towards the bottom in terms of fan support. And so that was really interesting to see, you know, everything being turned on its head. For the Mission 1 elimination, I really don't think that they should have eliminated Adela, even though it was probably in her best interest to not waste her time. And I truly don't think that she would have made it into KATSEYE even if she continued past Mission 1. And they said that the reason that she was eliminated was because she was dead last in fan voting. However, I do think that she deserved to stay at least for another mission, because you have someone who's been in the top 4 for the entire training and development program and you just decide to throw her away. You know, like, why not give her another chance to test with audiences? Like, who knows, maybe in the next mission, like, people's opinions change super quickly on the internet. You know, if I had to theorize about why they were okay with letting her go so soon, I think potentially, since they knew that Adela wasn't going to make the group, but she was a huge emotional pillar for the girls, perhaps she was the sacrificial lamb to make the show more dramatic in the name of entertainment, because we know that they're not opposed to doing that. And that brings me to Mission 2, the elimination scandal. Now, Mission 2 was interesting, and I got the impression that the girls knew which group was gonna win before the fan votes even came out, just because of the combination of girls and how they were doing popularity-wise and various things like that. And this particular performance was especially hard on Megan, actually, because she was really close with Adela, and then immediately after Adela's elimination, Megan had to learn her part and essentially replace her. Lots of emotions there. So here's the scandal. Right before the elimination for Mission 2, the girls were exposed. They were asked privately in an interview setting to choose 5 other girls that they would want to be in KATSEYE with. And even though it was recorded, they were told that it was not going to be revealed publicly. And so they were blindsided yet again when the stats were revealed right before the eliminations. And many of the girls picked Sophia, Danny, Samara, and Megan to be in their group, and on the other hand, Celeste, Ilya, and Manon only had 1 vote each, and Brooklyn and Ua both had 0 votes. And Mitra, who's the president of the Hybe Geffen collab thing, said that they wanted to up the ante and create that drama in the name of entertainment, and that this is what the fans really want to see, and that it was their highest rated episode even though it was emotionally turbulent. And she says this all with a smile on her face, and she's like, haha, it's just showbiz. And it immediately cuts to all the girls like sobbing, crying, which is horrible. I mean, the result of her decision was tears, betrayal, shattered dreams, pitting friends against each other, and I feel like that's never something you want to celebrate. Seeing this play out was the final straw for Lexie. And in that moment, she decided that she didn't want to be a part of this anymore. And here's the thing, Lexie had also become a favorite among the execs. And when she told them that she wanted to leave right after that, they probably told her to wait it out a little bit in the hopes of changing her mind. But instead, what she did was she stopped showing up to rehearsals entirely for that whole next week, which is hilarious. And I do wonder if Manon was referring to Lexie skipping practices in that clip that I talked about earlier. But Manon skipping practice and Lexie skipping practice had two totally different outcomes. Manon skipping practice was a little bit of a fuck you to her teammates, but Lexie skipping practice was a fuck you to the execs, because they didn't need to go through this whole charade of Lexie not showing up to practice for a week in order for the decision to be final. Like, Lexie told them that she wanted to leave, and then they didn't let her leave for a week, you know what I mean? So that's on them. And Mitra called Lexie into her office, and she was like, we're gonna have to let you go. I'm glad we all mutually think that this is the right thing for us. Bitch, please. Why are you pretending like you had any say in Lexie leaving? Like it was your mutual decision. That's such bullshit. That's why many fans do not have a high opinion of Mitra because of this whole scenario. And Mitra even said Lexie's chances of ending up in the group were huge. She fit everything for us: vocally, dance, charm, attitude, and she was doing well with fan voting. So this is actually really interesting because of Mission 3. Now, Mission 3 was the different pop girl group choreographies: Wannabe, Buttons, and Confident. Wannabe was this very cutesy, girly vibe group. Buttons was this very mature, sexy, dark feminine vibes, and Confident was somewhere in the middle. Like I said, it was interesting to see how they were testing the waters with these missions, because not only do I think that they were testing group vibes overall, but they were also testing group chemistry, analyzing how the voting was changing based on different pairings of people. And it did change. Like, Megan got more popular, and that's why I wish that they didn't let Adela go so early, because I was curious to see if the tides were going to change with her. The Buttons performance ended up doing the best, and it got the most attention from viewers, and the dance went viral. People loved Sophia, and she ate so hard, even though she was sick and throwing up, but she locked in. You literally wouldn't have even known if the documentary didn't show it, that she was like literally on death's door that day. But there's a bunch of theories in terms of Lexie and how her staying would have affected the outcome of KATSEYE. And I do think that there is some merit to that. And I don't think that that's just a conspiracy theory with no ground. Like, I do think that Lexie being there really could have affected things. I've seen people speculate that the group could have gone in two different directions, and Lexie leaving was pivotal. Like, because if you look at the two groups, Wannabe and Buttons, she was supposed to be in the Wannabe group. Lexie was supposed to be in the Wannabe group. So she could have paired well with Emily, Azrella, Samara, and Marquis. But because she left, we'll never really know what would have happened or how that would have affected the final group. And Nayoung was eliminated this round, like I said, which was surprising because she's so talented and was doing really well with fan voting. But because she mentioned going solo one time, and I don't know how casual she mentioned it, like in the documentary, I kind of got the impression that Nayoung was like, oh yeah, you know, I could go solo one day, like, sure. And I guess that was the thing that got her eliminated. She apparently didn't seem completely invested in being in the group, and the execs wanted to let her go because of that. I wonder if that was the real reason. I guess we'll never know. She was in a similar situation as Adela, because I think the reason with it, I don't remember if this is fans saying this or if this was what the exec said in the moment, but I think they might have said that Adela would have done better as a solo artist as well. Like, they could see that for her. But if that was the case, like, you kept Nayoung until Mission 3. Whereas with Adela, you cut her Mission 1. Make it make sense if they were both in similar boats, you know what I'm saying? It's just that Adela had really, really, really bad luck with the fan voting, but things change. I don't know, I really just don't understand. So, fun fact about Nayoung, she was actually like a known Korean singer and had experience being on a survival show in the past. So that's a little fun fact for you there. But then with Lexie gone, we got to the final 10, and I mean, obviously hindsight is 2020, but from a logic perspective, so here is my take on how I think that the executives arrived at the final KATSEYE decision. So I think Sophia was pretty locked in. She didn't really have an equivalent, and she was a fan favorite. I think Lara was also locked in because, again, she was doing really well with fans, and she was really good vocally. That she was the vocalist needed to sell out stadiums, you know what I mean? So Sophia and Lara, strong singer duo, both do really well with fans, right? So I think that they were locked in. I honestly think Manon was pretty locked in too, as the visual glue that paired well visually with Lara and Sophia. So now we've got 3 spots left, right? In terms of Danny, Emily, and Megan, Megan and Danny fit better with those three visually and vibes wise, and they were the two really strong dancers needed to round off the talents of the two singers, like the two main singers, you know what I mean? I think the true question was ultimately between Samara, Marquis, and Yoonchae, and out of those three, who would be the final member of KATSEYE? Why not Ezrella, you may ask? Well, I think that they were trying to create a diverse girl group, and even though currently with KATSEYE, 4 out of the 6 members are Asian, they're all ethnically different. I think the only person that this really affected, like in terms of thinking about diversity, was probably Ezrella, because I'm pretty sure that her and Lara are the same ethnicity, and so I don't think that the executives wanted to do any repeats. I mean, that's just my theory. I think that they were trying to avoid that. Plus, Ezrella paired really well with Emily and Lexie left, and Emily was already kind of out at this point, like going based on my logic. But for me, I could see an alternate universe where any of the three, either Samara, Marquis, or Yoonchae, was the 6th member. But I think that the reason why the execs picked Yoonchae was because she slays in general, obviously, and already had 2 years of idol training under her belt and was popular with the audience. So I think that she was a very reliable, safe pick. Not safe in terms of settling, but safe in terms of, even though she's young, she can hold her own. Like, she'll be fine, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's the story of how KATSEYE came to be. Out of all of the people throughout the entirety of the training and development program and Dream Academy, let me know who your favorite is. Guess who mine are? Mine are, drumroll please, Lara and Ezrella. I love Lara. She's so talented and funny. I love her vibe. Ezrella, I love her too. She reminds me of a princess. She has this dignified, kind, intelligent aura. Even Son seemed super sad that Ezrella wasn't in the group. He visited her after the members of KATSEYE were announced, and he was like, I hope that all the girls, including the current members of KATSEYE, who experienced that whole training thing and the Dream Academy thing, are doing okay. Like, goddamn, they were working so hard every single day, not even knowing if their efforts will be worth it because they could be eliminated at any moment. And being blindsided by a survival competition, like, yes, I'm still going to harp on that because that's crazy. And then experiencing the harsh realities of the entertainment industry, and sure, verbal, emotional, and physical abuse is normalized, especially in the K-pop world, but that does not make it okay. That does not mean that we should look the other way and say, like, well, is what it is. Like, again, these are children we're talking about here, remember? I will say, though, a lot of the teachers in this documentary seemed really cool. Like, I don't want you to think that I'm hating on them. And they seemed like they genuinely cared about the well-being of the girls throughout the whole process, so that was really good to see. I think that it definitely showed the harsh realities of the casting process as well. I have minimal experience acting and auditioning, but even from that minimal experience, like, you could truly, you have to really nail it into your head that it isn't personal. You really can't take it to heart. And the girls experienced that firsthand when they had to pick who would be in their own dream lineup. I understand the hurt and betrayal they felt, but I was also a little bit like, y'all, you know that this isn't personal. You really can't take it to heart. Like, if your friends didn't pick you to be in their lineup, that doesn't mean that they don't like you. That doesn't mean they don't want to be friends with you. That doesn't mean that they don't want you here in this program. You know, you're going based on skill. You're going based on performance. And you've also seen the rankings for a while now, and the people who got the most votes correlate with the highest rankings. But again, I know it's hard emotionally, and they were blindsided with that reveal and probably felt betrayed by both their friends and the producers, so I get it. I mean, this should show you that the tiniest differences can make or break you, whether that be height, weight, physical attractiveness, ethnicity, skill, and even like things that are completely out of your control, like Lexie leaving, could have altered whether or not someone was in the group based on literally nothing that they could even control, you know what I'm saying? So another interesting point was that when the fan votes came rolling in, the analysis was that Ilya was doing poorly because they thought that she had too mature of a look, and they thought that Emily was doing poorly because she doesn't fit K-pop beauty criteria, which My God, to say that in that documentary was so brutal. So let me reintroduce KATSEYE and talk about where they are today. So first we've got Danny, age 21, from Atlanta, Georgia. Her parents are Cuban and Venezuelan, and they're both ballroom dancers, so she's been dancing from a very young age. She was on America's Got Talent and was in the top 10 of So You Think You Can Dance when she was 11. Even though Laura is my favorite member in general, Danny is my favorite to watch in the performances. Her facial expressions go crazy, which is ironic because during her training, that was apparently her biggest weakness. And then we've got my girl, Lara Raj. She's 19 from LA. Her mom is a dance teacher, and low-key, she's pretty bouge. She's got connections to famous people. She's had some acting gigs. And you know who's also pretty bouge to my knowledge? Sophia. She's 22 from Manila, Philippines. Her mom is Carla Guevara La Forteza, who's a performing artist, so Nepo baby alert. Just kidding. Don't attack me, please. Then we've got Yoonchae from Seoul, South Korea. Had idol training, like I mentioned. She's the youngest and only minor of the group at 17. That is until, I believe, December? I don't know. November? Her birthday is like at some point at the end of this year. Manon is the oldest at 23 from Zurich, Switzerland. She was literally just a normal girl with a normal life. Finally, we've got Megan, 19, from Honolulu, Hawaii. Even though she grew up in Hawaii, she was in LA a lot and has experience with the industry, and she's been on many side quests before this big break. Like, that's kind of a meme within the KATSEYE fandom. She has this very nerdy, awkward vibe, like that's just her personality, but during performances she can really turn on and she performs like there's no tomorrow. There's this thing where Nikki the dance teacher called her boring in the documentary, and apparently that's what motivated her to give it her all during every performance from then on. And so literally Danny, Lara, Sophia, Megan, and Yoonchae were all somewhat in the industry before this opportunity presented itself. Like, the only exception was Manon, it seems to me. In 2024, KATSEYE released singles debut, La 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 La, In Touch, and You've Been So On, Touch 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 Touch, before the Popstar Academy Netflix doc dropped. Then they released their EP Sis, which stands for Soft is Strong, which includes those two singles plus My Way. Then I do it my way. I'm Pretty and Tonight I Met, I think, are the only songs I don't really know on this EP. And then in 2025, they released Gnarly. You really had to be there when it first dropped. People hate it at first because it sounds kind of goofy odd when you first hear it. Boba tea, gnarly, Tesla, gnarly, fried chicken. And I thought it was weird at first too. I did not like it, but slowly but surely it does consume you like there's no tomorrow. Like, literally 3 days went by and the internet completely switched up how they felt about the song. We love it now. An Ice Spice remix of Gnarly was released, which is kind of funny. And then they released their other single, Gabriella, Hands Off Gabriella. That also did really well. And then they released their second EP called Beautiful Chaos, which includes those two singles plus 3 other songs, Game Boy, You're Just a Game Boy, and then Mean Girls, which is the only song on this EP that I don't know, and then MIA, I Go MIA. At the end of 2025, they're going on their first ever tour, the Beautiful Chaos Tour, which has stops in the US, Canada, and Mexico. They will have 13 shows total. I wonder what the show will be like considering they only have 10 songs total, which has a runtime of around 30 minutes max, in terms of putting the songs back to back to back against each other. I don't know what the show's going to be like, but if you go, let me know how it is. Notable performances of theirs include the one at Lollapalooza, which had some really, really good moments. And then the VMAs, the Kids' Choice Awards, where they were literally like waterboarded with frickin' slime. They're known for going on live, being silly goofy together. They're also very active on TikTok. And they're all about doing the dance trends, doing the other trends in general. Each one of them has a personal TikTok account, which is usually private, but sometimes they make it public, and so that's the whole thing in the fandom. They have done so many collabs, my goodness. From Monster High to Gap to Jollibee to Pandora to Glossier to Coach to Lush. Oh, they also did a Winx dress-up thing, which I don't think was a collab, but they ate it up regardless. When I saw the Monster High collab, I don't get jealous pretty much ever, but I'm gonna be real with you, that did it for me. Yeah, that did it for me. They're also doing the whole interview circuit thing, and they're going on streams, and they are literally everywhere, quite frankly. Like, I'd be surprised if you hadn't seen them at least once. And by the way, their Gap ad, iconic, and it was this whole thing. It's like one of those baby sensory videos for me. Like, I could watch that on repeat over and over again, and it came out like pretty much immediately after the Sydney Sweeney American Eagle ad, which was not looked fondly upon by it was not received well. So it was just kind of an interesting comparison. So finally, there's a little bit of tea. Adele is now a solo artist. I've heard some of her songs. They all slap. I hope that she just continues to grow and grow. She and Emily are still seen together quite frequently, and they also hang out with KATSEYE occasionally, so they all seem to keep in touch. Well, not all of them, but like some of them seem to be keeping in touch with each other a little bit. Okay, so here's the big reveal. The same team behind KATSEYE is putting together a new girl group with a series called World Scout, the final piece, where they're trying to find the perfect fourth member to the members that they've already chosen, which are Samara, Lexie, and Emily. Sound familiar? I know. They could not let my girl Lexie go. I guess her face card was too lethal. Like, I don't know what it is, but they got Lexie to return. This is so random also, but I forgot to mention one of Emily's dance mentors is Giggles from Teen Beach Movie, so that's kind of fun. People were not happy that Samara was included in this lineup because apparently she had some scandals, but honestly, I can't tell if they're real or not. Like, I've been seeing people say something and then I see other people say, wait, that's been debunked. Actually, none of it is true. So I honestly don't even want to get into that right now. If you know anything about that, let me know, write a comment about it. But I really don't want to spread misinformation, especially if like everything's been debunked or if it's just not true at all. I really don't know what to think in regards to that. But yeah, this has been my little rabbit hole hyperfixation of the week. If you have any thoughts, feel free to share them. Let me know what you think. I said, I was like, oh my god, see you all next week in my last video, and I got called out for that, and I thought that was hilarious because someone was like, your posting schedule is not consistent. Look at me now, babe. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed. I hope this was fun for y'all employed people to learn about. If not, you win some, you lose some. I love y'all. You're just a gay boy. See y'all next week. Bye.